Small and medium-sized businesses are the backbone of our economy.
Hi, this is the BackBone Small Business Podcast. I'm Dave, and today we've got Debbie Hartz from the CFIB, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, on the line with us. Hi, Debbie. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good. All things considered, I think we've been having these conversations with several people and business owners, just trying to read the pulse and check where they're at with how businesses are going. And that's what we're here today to talk about. So first thing I'd like is for you to maybe take a minute or two and explain what it is the CFIB does for its membership, of which we've been a part for probably 12 years.
Yes, and thank you very much for that. So CFIB is the largest lobby group in Canada for small business. And it's important to note that it's for strictly independent small business. So that's who we represent. We have 110,000 members across the country. We've been doing this for 49 years now. We're nonprofit, we're nonpartisan, we can work with all governments. And we have three basic mandates, and we get our lobbying orders really from our members. So we're a voting organization, and as you would have noticed recently, is that you're being surveyed weekly. As things change with COVID-19, business and what's coming out from the government, it's changing. And so CFIB needs to know what's happening to its members across the country and in different sectors to see how we can help and what do we need to lobby the government for. So we're an organization that strictly works for our members and based on what their needs are. And people vote 4 times a year on draft legislation that's coming down the pipeline from the government. When we tabulate all those ballots, we actually stand up in Parliament to say this is how small business has voted with regards to this draft federal or provincial legislation. So it creates an incredibly strong voice for business. The second part of us is our business resources department. And right now we're getting over 1,000 calls a day. So as a district manager in Victoria, part of my job right now is to help ease that load and to talk to business owners right across the country with regards to whatever their concern happens to be. And if I don't have the answer, I will be able to get them the answer within 24 hours. So that part of our company or our organization has always been critical, but it's never been more critical than it is right now, because business owners are looking to try to find expertise and help, real help, and what is the truth about this program or that program, and has it changed this week? So if they don't qualify right now, and we've been lobbying for it, then they might qualify the following week. So that's been extremely helpful for people to call and find out, what they can do in their situation, because people have so many questions. The third part of us is our savings and benefits program. And so it's exclusive to our members. And there's a lot of people right now that are actually taking advantage of that. So I'll just give you a couple of examples. We work with PayWorks, and if you're considering the 75% wage subsidy, they've already worked that into their program. So you don't have to pay your accountant or pay anything really extra. And you'll be actually paying a minimal amount to have them do your payroll and figure all of that out for you. Plus, you're going to come out the other side and not have the government come back to you and say, look, you did something wrong and you owe this much money. So there's that kind of help that's available. There's been a lot of question around insurance. And, it's great to have a district manager that I have a gentleman that has 30 years commercial insurance. And I've sent people to him that are having problems either with their insurance company, or they really need somebody who can be on their side to answer those kinds of questions. And he's really been phenomenal, helping people that weren't even his clients at all. So that goes to show you that there's all kinds of ways that you can actually save money or get really great advice from some experts right across the country that are all Canadian companies, by the way.
It's for us, it's been a good organization for sure. To recap, 110,000 members coast to coast. And under normal circumstances, you're lobbying on our behalf within the federal government. So clearly at this particular moment during this COVID-19 crisis, that's really important. So now with all the programs that you offer, they're available through the website, cfib.ca. Is that correct?
Yes. So one of the things that I would recommend, because one of the things that we're finding that business owners, even our members, are not as aware of what's on our website. And the government of Canada is actually telling people to go to our website. So it's broken down into provinces, it's broken down into federal subsidies, and exactly what does that mean and where would you apply for that money if you wanted to do that. So without even calling into us, you can get all of that information on our website. We have 3 really great, there's a lot of things that small business still need. And so we've got 3 really great surveys that people, whether they're a member or not, can ask for, help with regards to the federal government and help support what we're trying to do too, just by signing the surveys. So yeah, the website's really important. So it's cfib.ca. Yeah.
Yeah, great. I mean, it's been a great resource for us. Now let's shift gears a little bit. Now we've got a handle on what it is that the CFIB does on behalf of its members, companies such as ours. What are you hearing on the streets? Because I know that what I'm hearing in chatting with people is, yeah, the programs are great, but it might involve a certain amount of debt that companies have to take on. If they're taking on for instance, the $40,000 loan, as it stands right now, no matter how quickly you pay that back, $30,000 is going to be a loan. It's going to come due. So it is an interesting thing. So whether a company goes into debt with that, or whether they defer rent payments, at some point we're going to have to pay the piper. So how many are you hearing from companies like I am that they're concerned that they might have to fold the tent, as it were, rather than continue to fight on? Or what are you hearing?
No, we're definitely hearing that. And I mean, the rent consideration is a big one. Property tax, which would help some of their landlords, is a really big one. I mean, property tax was something that we were working on before all of this started, but it's really critical now. And small business isn't much different. A small business is like running your household. So if the provincial government is going to give people $300 a month in rent, or $500 a month in rent, or however many people live in a spot, a small business isn't that much different. They still have to pay rent too, and many of them have been mandated to close. So in the surveys that I'm doing with people, that's one of the questions is, should government be helping people that have been mandated to close or have had a significant loss in revenue? Small business is the biggest employer in Canada. It's also that you're called the backbone. That's what you're called, and that's the truth. I mean, 8 million people are employed by small business, so we can't just leave small business out to hang. And I think what it feels like right now is that we've been in this for a really long time, and it's been about a month. And so for us as a lobby group, we're working literally tirelessly to get more help for small business. And so rent is one of those things, fixed costs. And we're not talking about deferrals. We're talking about, forgiveness of certain things, and definitely the loan. I mean, $40,000 really isn't very much when you think about it, depending on the size of the business. It would help some people with fixed costs, but there's definitely things around that people don't qualify for that loan. So if you're a brand new business, if you opened last year, for instance, there's a business that we have that they just opened last year, so he doesn't qualify for that because he doesn't have the $50,000. So CFIB looks at what's coming out, does the research, does the survey, and gets that all out, so that every week we're having about 90 meetings or more with politicians to say, this is what's happening, and this is what is going to happen to small business if we don't, step up and help. And I mean, I'll get on a little bit of a soapbox here right now. We've been lobbying the provincial government, because when we look at what the provincial government has offered so far to small business, it's not very much. In fact, we've heard very little from other than deferring, certain types of taxes. But in terms of helping with property tax or helping with, rent, those kinds of things, we haven't heard anything. And this particular government,
I know you're, as you mentioned on a soapbox, that the provincial thing is very interesting. So can you, I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you dig specifically into that right now? What can the provincial government actually do to help?
Well, they have $6.6 billion in surplus in the Workers' Compensation Fund, and they've had that for over 2 years. CFIB won this issue in Alberta, Saskatchewan, PEI, and Manitoba. All of those governments and WorkSafe all paid that money back and set a cap set in loss, but that never happens in their provinces. So the only government we have not won this with, and we're working on it right now actually, because that's something that would be easy for the provincial government to do, is to give back the money that already belongs to business. So if you're a business that is in a low risk, you'd be getting about $1,300 back per employee. And if you were a construction company, you'd be getting about $3,000 back per employee. And that's already your money, and you've already paid tax on it. So it's actually cash money. That would be an incredible thing that this particular government could do for small business.
And so now that's particular to the province of British Columbia, of which we're in.
Yeah.
Has that lobbying been effective in other provinces?
Yeah, we won the same issue in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, PEI, and the Yukon in the last 2 years.
Okay, so it hasn't been particular to this COVID crisis. This has been an ongoing battle with the CFIB.
Yeah, and it's something that I've thought about during this, because business definitely needs money. There's no question. And this would be a very, easy thing for the government, just the provincial government, to just give business back the money that's already theirs, actually.
Yeah, I mean, anything that a small business owner can do, because, as you mentioned, the government has mandated the shutdown, and as we're all in this together. Clearly, small business owners don't want to be getting sick, putting their families and their own health at risk. So anything that can happen to help support us is going to have an upflow, meaning we're going to be able to pay our rents and our leases to the landlords, which are being pinched from above from the mortgage brokers. So it would have a trickle up effect, and so it would ease for sure the burden right now. So I think anything that can happen to get the cash flowing again is going to be good. I heard on my way in today, today is Tuesday, April the 14th, I believe. And I was listening to Prime Minister Trudeau talk this morning, and he was talking about parts of the economy, depending on the region, opening up within the next few weeks. Obviously, that's very gray. That's a broad statement to make. But the idea that the health is paramount concern. But if you don't have anything to come back to, it's a real juggle. So I think organizations like yourself pointing out to the provincial government in BC, and then working with the federal government with the programs they have and giving them feedback is great. What about contractors? Has there been any movement on that? Because I know that contractors weren't able to qualify, at least at one point, for the emergency relief fund because they don't actually file a T4. Is that correct?
Well, if they're self-employed, they do actually qualify. So if they're self-employed, they do qualify. That was one of the things that we lobbied for with regards to that particular, because there was no help at the very beginning for anyone who was self-employed. So a contractor is someone who is self-employed, basically. So they actually do qualify.
Great. Now,
as long as the qualification is they have to have earned $5,000 in the year before. And that's where it kind of, there's some businesses that are brand new that they don't qualify. So we're looking at all of that to be able to.
What about the payroll side? Sorry, what about the payroll side? Because I know that, I guess maybe that I wasn't clear with my question. Because I've had in the past with this company, contractors that are paid through deliveries or what have you, where they come in, they do a few deliveries. Now those people, because they didn't receive a T4 from me, I wouldn't be able to claim the payroll on their behalf, or to be able to get that 75% of that 10% payback from the government.
So the 75% will only be for employees, not for contract workers. So they actually have to be an employee of your company. And that was another thing that was the first really big win that CFIB had in this exercise, was the government only wanted to give small business 10%. And we knew that 10% wasn't going to be enough. And we also know that in order for people, as you say, whenever we get back to work, which will be wonderful, or back to regular kind of work for as they open things up. People need to have their employees with them still. You can't open your business back up and then not have your employees around. So the 75% wage subsidy really was designed to be able to keep your employees with you, whether they're working or not.
So
what's
the feedback you're getting from businesses? Because I know what I did with my business. I knew we were too small, and I saw this, coming down the train tracks, that we were going to be shut down on some level. It was before I knew that I lost my contracts to the hotels, which are our biggest commercial accounts. It was before I knew how bad it was going to get. We were still doing probably, 30 to 40%, but I cut our staff loose. And the reason for it was because I knew that it was going to be crippling to our company and not fair to them to not be able to have them get on the list for whatever unemployment was at the time. So what are you hearing from companies even with the 75%? That means they have to have the outlay of cash first. They have to have the cash in hand first. So how is that working for businesses? What businesses is it working for, and what isn't it working for?
Well, it will work for some businesses. As you say, it won't work for some, because it's last week, the biggest issue that we had with the program was that it was going to take the government 6 weeks to roll it out. Well, most businesses don't have 6 weeks of payroll sitting around before another program and then apply for something and then wait for the money. We're talking about 2 months. It's too long. And so when Parliament passed this on Saturday, they did say, Finance Minister Morneau did say that they were going to try to get this going in 3 weeks. For some people, that may or may not be enough, but for a lot of people, they've put their employees on either EI, they've laid them off, or they have put them on the CREB, or the employees have gone on that themselves. Companies will have the ability to bring those employees back once the 75% wage subsidy. So you may have a certain number of employees, you might have all of your employees that you want to keep. And so yes, you would be paying them and then get paid back.
Yeah, it's an interesting dance, because I know I've got, friends of mine who've, one person with whom I spoke one of our first episodes, she owns the local gluten-free bakery here. Origin.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and her name is Tara, our partner's Marion, and wound up, I think, probably because of comfort food, they didn't really lose much business, but they were dealing with all kinds of staff layoffs. So they're shelling out for people that aren't there. I shouldn't use the term. That's not a great term. They're paying wages for people that aren't actually working in the shop. They're in a position at the time anyway to do that because the cash was flowing in. But as the more shutdowns happen, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And this is the crystal ball, and that none of us really have for which none of us really have an answer, where you're looking at it saying, if I'm going to bring back my staff, then that's going to chew up any kind of money I might have. So as a small business that doesn't need a lot of people, that there isn't much work doing, I would literally have people standing around and doing nothing. I know that they have their jobs, but it's very interesting because it's that juggle of who gets paid. You pay Peter, you pay Paul, right?
Yeah, and I think that when we're talking to people, every business is a little bit different and different sized and different dynamics with regards to their staff. So people are really making individual decisions based on, the information we've given them, and then how their company is structured and how they want to see their company, moving forward.
Yeah, I understand that side of it, because the moving forward part, it's looking down the road. I was speaking with my partner yesterday, and we're doing everything we possibly can to make sure that our doors stay open. And I know that most other businesses are in the same boat, because this is what puts food on their table. These are their dreams, their hopes, all tied up into this one mishmash of a small business. But at a certain point, you look at it and go, okay, well, I got to go into debt for this. I wasn't planning on it. I've got to go into debt for this. I wasn't planning on it. I'm going to be behind in this payment. I'm going to be behind in this payment. So fast forward 6 months down the road, a year down the road, all of these bills are going to come due. And that's something nobody has an answer for. We don't know how this is going to play out. So, are these businesses going to go under in a year from the burden of the loans? And that's something we've got through our the BackBone Small Business podcast. We did a task force with our accounting firm. They're called NKPG. I'll send you the link, and maybe you can fire it up the chain. And
Yeah,
certainly when we spoke with Daryl Norgard, one of the principals at NKPG, that was a concern he had. A couple things where the money's not flowing fast enough from the government, and the burden of the debt load on the other end. And that's what he's seeing when he's speaking to people with boots on the ground, and they're all raising that concern. Anybody like myself that's got to go into debt to carry this thing forward, it's a really hard decision to make, because you're not, the business isn't going to all of a sudden go from, literally 20% of what we've done or 0% of what we've done to now 100 overnight. It's going to take time.
No. Yeah, it will take time. And we are in complete agreement with small business in terms of, and we hear this every day from our members. No one wants to, even though that loan's been offered and $10,000 of it might be forgivable or will be forgivable, not everyone qualifies for it to begin with. So that's a problem. And the other thing is that it's not really that much money, and they're asking small business to go into debt. So that's really, it's very stressful. And, that's one of the things that I have to say. I mean, I'm a small business champion. I've had 2 small businesses myself. So I know how stressful it is. Not to go through a situation like this as a small business person, but I hear it every single day. So people definitely have struggles, and small businesses are our champions. They're our champions of the economy, and so they do need and deserve to have that help. And that's what we're working tirelessly, to do. That's our whole mandate.
Yeah, and it's appreciated from the member's perspective, but it is something where looking at it and saying, what does the future hold? You've got the burden of the debt is really interesting, because it's people that don't own a small business. They probably, there's no way they can understand what it is you deal with and the decisions you make. The emergency fund for Canadians, the $2,000 a month for 4 months it's a terrific program. It's come on, it's fast. You apply 18 hours later, you got money in your account, assuming all things have gone well in the checklist online. But the notion that if I want to keep, this is the interesting thing from a business owner's perspective. So I'm told by the government, I got to shut down. I get it. I understand it. I don't want to make anybody sick. I don't want to get sick. So I shut down as best as possible. With us, we're an essential service. So we're open. We do a little bit of business. And I mean, 20% of what we normally did. That's about it. So we're barely able to keep the doors open. Then it's, I'm asked to incur a debt to bail that's going to bail me out. So the initial hit of the cash is great. I can put out some fires, but man, I got to pay that back. And that's the scary part. And that's the struggle that we all face,
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And when I'm just looking at one of the survey, like the online survey that we have, and that's one of the questions we're asking people to answer, is that the government's actually asking small business to go into debt, as opposed to, we believe that $10,000 should be a grant, opposed. So, I think the other thing too, again, is that, and we just started working on the rent. There's a rent piece that we just started working on, and we did a news release last Tuesday. So rents and property tax, because that's the next piece. If people could have a break and not a deferral, because really what we've seen from the BC government for business is deferrals. And it's not enough, because people still have to pay that at some point. And like you said, when you open, it's not like 100% is going to come back through the door. So the deferral doesn't really help you. And it puts you in a position where it looks like you can't pay your bills on time. Well, you can't.
Well,
So,
and that's the problem, right? It's looking at it and say, I'm a firm believer that the landlords need more help. I mean, there's a lot of talk. I'm doing a small business podcast, so it's about small businesses. But I look at, the landlords of our building, they need to get as much of a break as possible, and deferring. I mean, it's this. It's a delay of bankruptcy is all I see it happening, where it's got to be paid at some point. If it's a deferral, if it's a loan, all these things are having to get paid. So, I mean, then you're talking about use of tax dollars, which is, I suppose, a whole other discussion. But certainly, there's money available for programs like the CBC, whether you agree with it or not. They've got money to pay for this Crown Corporation, but there's no money to say, you know what, take that money and give it to the small business owner, and here's 40 grand or 100 grand or whatever it is. You don't have to pay it back because we're making you shut down. We're imposing this shutdown on you. Rightfully so, understandably so, but when it's mandated, they've taken us out at the knees. We don't have any possible way of recouping any money right now. There's no way to do it, and then to just delay it, it's just delaying the inevitable. So it's, it kind of lipstick on a pig, I guess, would be one sort of half analogy, where as business owners were band-aiding a solution through programs like this $40,000. And you mentioned the $10,000 is a grant. Well, it's only if you pay it back within a certain amount of time. So your business has to increase enough to cover your payroll, to cover your rent, and to cover that new loan payment. That's 30 grand that's going to be due. I think it's in a year and a half. So, it's going to be interesting, because that's the problem, isn't it? Where
it is,
we shut down now, or we shut down in 18 months.
So our mandate right now, based on what our members have told us, the big things are rent and fixed costs, and not that anyone's looking for a deferral at this point. We're looking for some forgiveness of rent, or forgiveness or a certain amount of it, or whatever the case may be, so that people actually can come back. So I think that, if you're looking for the correct answers to what we're lobbying about, to the governments, definitely, we're the ones that are going to have that answer, because we're looking at everything that they're doing, and then we're saying, okay, this takes all of these people out of the equation that don't qualify for these things. So what about them? And businesses, what we're hearing is the same as you, are not really interested in a loan. They're just not. So we're looking at how can the government give grants to small business that, you don't have to pay back, especially for businesses that have been mandated to close or have seen gross drops in revenue.
Gross drops is a good word, Debbie. I appreciate your time, and thank you very much on behalf of me as a member, and on behalf of small businesses, that you at CFIB continue to fight the good fight, hold the government's feet to the fire. They are doing some things right. I'm not a partisan kind of a person. I like to say, be open-minded enough to see which government is enacting good programs. It seems like this government is doing some good things. So keep pushing on behalf of us, our small businesses, to get that loan out of there, because it's coming. It's the light in the train tracks, the freight train coming at you, is just kind of pushed back the track a few miles.
Well, and one of the things that I would encourage anyone that's watching or listening today is, if you need help, or you need help discerning information, or excuse me, that you'd like more information with regards to what is available, anyone can call me. So my telephone number is 250-818-4672. Any business can reach out to me, and I will, if I don't have the answer, I will get you the answer within 24 hours. Because part of the problem right now is people are having to go through too much information to try to find the answers and we actually have those answers already. So, that's part of our job. So I'm happy to help any small business that is looking for information, or, has something that they would like to tell us.
That's terrific. Thanks. And conversely, they can also find you through the website through British Columbia, right? So CFIB.ca, click through the BC link. You should be able to get a hold of you. I believe I found your name pretty easily yesterday when I was confirming. But yeah, that's great to give that out. Thank you.
No, you're more than welcome. And like I said at the very beginning, small businesses are the champions, of business in Canada. So I definitely celebrate all of you. And I know it's a tough time, and I know that we'll come back stronger, because entrepreneurs are the most amazing people on the planet. So,
One might say we're the backbone of the economy.
Yeah, one might say that. That's right.
Thanks, Debbie. Take care. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks so much.
They are the backbone of Toronto's economy and the country's economy, and their success when we restart our city will be key to restoring the strength of Canada's economic engine.